Yo, Mr. I have nothing else to do but to watch some random dude running around in forests talking about things that nobody else ever talks about, because all people talk about is bullshit. I mean, seriously, sometimes, I mean, I'm not at all fond of I'm not at all fond of TikTok. It's the fucking worst. And so is all these YouTube shorts. Literally, it's the worst kind of thing. You turn it on and 5 seconds, it's just nonsense. I mean, I've watched quite a bit of this stuff and all of it is junk. And today I watched one video and it was this young lady. I don't call her a woman because a woman would never do that. Yeah? And the same, no man would ever do porn. These are all children spiritually. I mean, there are certain things you have to understand about consciousness and enlightenment and what that means, because people are going to tell you Buddha was enlightened. There is nobody that was ever called Buddha. You know, people think that's a name. It's not a name, it's a consciousness, right? People are going to tell you, Jesus Christ, he was our savior. You know, Jesus was a guy like you and me. And what is Christ? It's a state of consciousness. Christ consciousness. You know, that's like general knowledge. That's like, you know, that's like basic knowledge. You know, that's the kind of stuff that you should know as a human, right? Walking around in a strut talking about, oh, humans are so smart. Well, they don't know the first thing about consciousness. They know nothing about consciousness, but they talk like they know what's going on, but they don't know what consciousness is. I mean, of course, now if we're going to label it, what is consciousness? Well, are you conscious or are you not conscious? When I use this camera, I'm conscious of the fact that the production of this camera is absolutely shit for the environment. That's a fact. You know, I don't have to talk myself out of this, but then you get people, right? It's like buying an electric car and acting like, oh, I'm doing this for the environment. No, the reason you're doing this is because you want to do good, right? You want to be like everybody's favorite son because, oh, I have the newest product. That's ignorance. You're buying a product, you don't even know why. You're buying it because you think that it's gonna make you look good. I mean, that's the real reason you want it. Of course, you're not gonna say that. You're gonna have all kinds of weird, right, explanations. No, I'm doing this, right, for the environment. I'm doing this because I can. It's a status symbol. And you do this most of all because you think it's gonna make you feel good. Only once you have that car standing in front of your door, let's say you don't have a garage, no, you're gonna shit your pants. Because now you spend, you know, lots of money, you know, whatever currency, doesn't matter. You know, you spend lots of money on something that is supposed to define you as a human being. So you spend money on something and you think it's gonna get you love. you want love because you see this object, yeah, and you take good care of it, and every day, right, you make sure that it's like well protected, you know, and if it's like a hailstorm outside, you worry about your car, and you feel, you know, like people should really like your car just as you like it. I mean, that's materialism. That's like surface-based living. You're living on the surface of life. And what's consciousness? Well, it's hard to describe this to somebody who doesn't know what it is. Because with words, so you smoke cannabis, you know, it's like, you know, all out there, whatever. You smoke cannabis, what happens? We're talking about, you know, psychedelics alter consciousness. That's what we say. They widen your horizon if you know how to use them. But you can use psychedelics in an unconscious way, which is you use them and you sit at home and then you let the psychedelic do its work and you just watch a movie, like, right? And you're like laughing about stuff. You see, it's hard to describe this. But what's the difference between, let's say, maybe you and me? Or what's the difference between a conscious person and an unconscious person? And how does enlightenment go into this? And what are the symptoms of enlightenment? And how can you work with these symptoms instead of fighting them? Okay, we are talking about awakening. You know, I'm in the process to awaken. You know, I'm about to awaken is what... I forgot his name. He wrote a book called Crazy Wisdom. It's not really my business to know everybody's name. It's okay. Maybe it'll come at a later stage. I cannot say. But the point is, he said there was a documentary. I think it's even called Crazy Wisdom. You know, do your own research, right? He said, you know, I'm on the verge to enlighten. And that feels like you're losing your mind. Yeah? That feels like you're going insane. You know, I know what I'm talking about. Because when I heard him say that, and when I saw what he did, and how he lived his life, and what he was saying to people, you know, it was like, okay, I get it. You know, I understand what you're talking about. You know, so when I listen to Terence McKenna, for instance, I know what he's talking about. But that's not mainstream stuff. I mean, some people, they listen to Terence McKenna and all they get out of it is something about elf machines and just do psychedelics every day. But that's not the solution. I mean, maybe to you it is, but to me it was more like Ram Dass, but also not. You know, I am myself. I don't want to be Ram Dass. I also don't want to be Terence McKenna. I sure as fuck don't want to be Jesus, because I'm not allowing people to nail me on the cross, because that's basically what happens if you take the blame for everything, right? People come along and have a bad day, you know, and then they give you shit for it. And, you know, if you take it, then they nail you on the cross. You're the evil one, right? That's all there is to it. And so it's the mob, yeah? What is the mob? Unconscious. The mob is unconscious. So the question is, what are you conscious about? Are you conscious about the way you feel? Because I am. That's my compass. That's where I base my choices on, right? If I know how I feel right now, I also know what I must choose. Because, you know, I don't want to live my life like a person that has a car and is afraid of losing that car. It's ridiculous to think you can lose a car. I mean, it's like losing a stone. What's it matter? I mean, you should be more afraid of losing yourself. But you've probably done that already. So, you know, now it's about finding yourself again. And that's the thing. What are you conscious of? Right? Some people are conscious about movies, right? They're conscious of the fact that movies exist, yeah? And they watch movies because it's something they're conscious of. And so they keep watching movies because that's something they're conscious of, right? They're conscious of the fact that movies exist. What they are unconscious of is the reason why they watch movies. It's because they feel bad and they're afraid. And so movies are something to cling to. You know, I'm just gonna make it how I feel about it. You know, I cannot talk about this kind of stuff and worry too much about whether you're gonna understand what I'm trying to tell you, because this is like highly complicated stuff. And to narrow this down, you know, also needs practice on my side, because I'm trying to find the language and the words to express to you what you can never possibly express. And that's why I have to talk, you know, about things that I discovered in my life and that I see in a lot of people, certain behaviors and stuff. So let's say you're conscious about food, right? And you're conscious about certain types of food. Let's say you're conscious about drinking alcohol. But if it comes to, let's say, maybe cannabis, you have all kinds of preoccupations that form your opinion that cannabis is bad, whereas alcohol is good. You know, that's like, okay, you're conscious about certain things for certain things. So you say alcohol is good, cannabis is bad. Why do you say cannabis is bad? Because you're afraid of it. Why are you afraid of it? Because the information that you've been given by the government is probably quite negative. Plus, it's illegal, right? In countries like Germany, they say it's illegal. It's not illegal. I mean, it's illegal to the people that are afraid of it. And then it's your choice. I mean, you can get it anywhere. I mean, you don't have to sell it to people and make money of it. I mean, you can just grow it for yourself if you want to. I don't really know, right? But the thing is, what are you conscious of? And are you even conscious of conscious stuff, consciousness, conscious things, conscious, you know, I don't know what. Yeah, I'm going down there. Cheers. So, questions over questions over questions. The best way, because I know how it feels to be conscious, and I know how it feels to be unconscious, right? I know how it feels to be somewhat asleep consciously or to be awake, right? If I'm awake, what does that mean? We're talking about awareness. What does awareness mean? Right? It's like, you know, I'm trying to raise questions here, because what you will understand eventually is that you're not gonna get all the answers from somebody. You know, not me, not whatever you think Buddha is, you know, not from Ram Dass, not from, I don't know, Eckhart Tolle. Yeah, I mean, who can take that guy serious? You know, I cannot, because he's got a stick in his ass that's like very huge. You know, he's not a very male, you know, I don't really want to pick on him, but in a way I want to, because, you know, he's the kind of guy that makes whatever spirituality is look boring. Why would you ever want to be like Eckhart Tolle? It's just boring. He's just sitting around like, you know, it's like people sitting around drinking tea with one finger, like the pinky in the air, like, I'm conscious. That's what Eckhart Tolle is to me. He's a bad joke. That's how I see it. And if he takes that personal, well, then that's his problem and he should work with that. You know, I can't really help him. You know, if he would be a guy, you know, going out in nature, you know, like making life a challenge and selling that to people. You know, it's like people who think they're spiritual or that want to know something about spirituality, what do? They look for people that talk to them. Yeah, and then they find somebody like Eckhart Tolle and they think, what the fuck, that's spirituality? Boo! And then the other side of the coin is, you know, I'm going to buy an expensive car instead, or I'm going to get really loaded on psychedelics. Yeah. I mean, that's roughly how it is. I mean, that's kind of options you have. So what am I trying to do? I'm trying to tell you that you cannot get consciousness from books. You have to actually search for it, because what you're trying to find is a place in yourself, and you're only going to get there by drawing comparisons, by looking at the world, at life, right? And then asking yourself, who am I? Right? It's a valid question. What am I? How do I feel? You know, what do I want? Because what most people want is what they think other people expect from them. Because that's like safe, right? You know, if I do everything that people want from me, you know, they will like me. That's what some people think. That's like unconscious. You know, I remember quite vividly one moment. It was, yeah, I'm gonna say it, you know, it was like before an ayahuasca ceremony. It wasn't really ayahuasca, it was jurema. And I smoked quite a bit of cannabis beforehand. And I was standing in the kitchen. And then the guy who was holding these ceremonies, he came into the kitchen and I said to him, because, you know, in me was building up this intense desire that I wanted to scream like really loud, you know, because I felt like, you know, I'm going mad about something. And then he came and I said, you know, I really feel like I want to scream. And, well, he said to me, well, you could, but, you know, just try to not do that. And usually when I have this, it's often before I'm at some kind of breakthrough in terms of consciousness, right? It's like, what are you aware of? It's like your consciousness, what does that mean? It's energy rising within you and filling you up. And the more that does that, you know, the more you feel like you're losing your mind, because that's what you do, because your mind is like clinging to things, right? It's like you're living your life, you're having a relationship, and then that relationship ends. But even 5 years later, you're still clinging to that relationship. That's the mind, right? Because the mind tries to look for the things that made you feel good, or that made you feel anything. The mind is basically what helps you to figure out what you want. But if you don't use it that way, you know, you can be manipulated. Because then other people will tell you what you want, which is not what you want, right? Which is more like what they want. And if you live their life, because you're depending on them, you know, they have you by the balls. You know, let's say you really love sex, yeah? You really love sex, and you think, oh, for the rest of my life I want to have sex, and if I don't have sex, I feel terrible. So every day that you don't have sex, you feel like something's missing. Now you have a problem, because in order to have sex, there has to be a woman, and that woman has to want sex. And now let's say you're in a marriage or a relationship, and that means if that woman doesn't want sex, yeah, you have to play with yourself today, little doggy. I'm not throwing shit for you. that's relationship. Maybe your wife doesn't want to have sex with you today. Well, too bad. Go play with yourself. Well, if that means to you masturbation, then, well, that means to you masturbation. Instead you could do something else. What could you do instead? Be creative, go for a walk. Because what I've realized is, I was depending on sex. Not so much because that's who I am, but because I was told from a young age that you have to have sex, right? I'm not joking, I don't have to hide that. My dad was one of the people who told me, yeah, having sex makes you feel really good. Yeah? And how does not having sex makes you feel then? He was the guy who would say to me, I still want to have sex even when I'm really old. What the fuck? That's the kind of teaching you get from an unconscious person. Because he doesn't know what he's saying. He just knows, sex made me feel good once, and maybe even twice. But he has no idea how I feel about sex. Because I had this, I'm not married or something. I'm quite alone. Which, sounds bad to you maybe, but to me it's a very desirable state at the moment. Because I realized that I was so dependent, that I became conscious. Because I looked at it. I asked myself the question. Till, I don't know, the breaking point. What do I want? What makes me happy? I am searching actively for the things that I want in my life and the things I don't want. And I make decisions based on the evidence that I have collected with my mind by paying attention, by looking at myself from an outside perspective. We're talking about a higher wisdom and stuff. You're looking at yourself and your life from the perspective of the observer. Yeah? Just fucking get it. It makes me angry. She's too dependent. I don't want to fucking throw you a stick. Today is like a very hectic day. And I don't like this playful shitting around. You may think I'm an asshole. I don't physically hurt her. Maybe it's like emotionally, I don't know. But today is a day where I feel like, I'm about to crack. And it's all I can do to hold myself together. So going out in nature certainly helps. And then I cannot take this little doggy, and play with her and pretend like, oh, it's so nice, because that dog, yeah, sure, she expects me to walk around and play and act like, I really want that. I'm telling her to fucking play with herself. Have you seen how dogs act on each other? Like, I've seen that once. There was a dog. Fucking do it yourself. There was a dog. A young male dog. And suddenly, an adult male dog came rushing in, like, and put that dog into place. Because from the dog's perspective, the male, like the adult dog, there was a young dog out of place in his territory. So fucking leave me alone, right? Now she's walking in front, which is good to the degree that there's like trail, like a railway. So now at least she's doing her own thing. Because before she was just walking behind me, like that little puppy looking at you like, who's? And I cannot stand this. I cannot stand people that want to hold my Up. And look. Yes, sometimes she's a bit afraid of me. But I don't mind, because that's her problem. If she's a pussy, It's her problem. You know, I'm quite impulsive. I'm quite an explosive person because I'm dealing with a lot of shit. You know, I'm trying to hold my space because I'm conscious of the existence of space. You know, I'm conscious of that. That means I'm aware of the energy that surrounds me, yeah? I'm aware that if I'm a part of a family, that I have certain responsibilities as a man to channel the energy. You know what that means? Right? Do you know what Gandhi did? The whole revolution that was seemingly, you know, boosted. It was so. It was boosted by Gandhi. The whole revolution that then freed India from English assholes, British aristocrats or something, was boosted by Gandhi because he was channeling the energy. He was holding the energy in the center. What does that mean? Imagine a chief of a tribe. What does the chief do? He holds the energy, and with that he gives stability to the whole tribe, which means nobody goes into severe ecstasy, which is just as bad as, you know, at the other side of like, intense bliss. What's on the other side of intense bliss? Fear and absolute chaos and madness. These are basically the same thing. So you have sometimes people that take psychedelics that go insane with bliss, and then you have people that take psychedelics that go insane with fear. So you can shout your lungs out or you can start laughing. These are all symptoms of so-called enlightenment. And, you know, just before I left, I was working on that, you know, the is it called Mancatcher, the video with the mouse. But I also knew I had to walk the dog, and I was literally like, you know, on the inside. And then you have to walk a dog still. I mean, that's a challenge to hold up your own energy. It's channeling, right? There's like, you know, I don't know everything about there is. I just know what I need to know. So imagine there's like two fields. One is going like this, and one is going like this. And the first time I became aware of this was I was in the sauna. And we took some cannabis oil beforehand. And I was in the sauna, and first in the sauna I did some stretching, yeah? I did some stretching in the sauna. Amy, Fuß. Hier. Here. See, she's not really, you know, because I never hurt her. And that's why she's not like super afraid of me. But she does pull herself together when I get a bit, you know, when I get a bit mad at her. She does pull herself together. So, you know, it's a dog. She gets the message. She's not stupid. You know, it's like, you know, she doesn't hold a grudge or something. Of course, you know, I sometimes do give her love and I make her feel good. But sometimes she's just a pussy and then she's just sitting around like, I cannot allow myself to be like this anymore. You know, I used to do that. And my entire family had the habit of doing that. Sits. So, right, if you train a dog to be a pussy, he'll be a pussy. Sits. So she has to listen because I'm in charge. Right? I mean, it's important. And, you know, I have to be able to trust her that she listens. And I have to make sure that she does. I don't do so by, you know, forcing myself with violence, like physical violence on top of her. But I do demand that she listens, and that means you have to impose your will to a certain degree on another person. That also has to do with consciousness. So she recognizes me as a pack leader because I say, you know, I'm the one who gives the rules here, because you're not the alpha, I'm the alpha. So in order to feel good, you know, about being a dog and running around playing, she also has to acknowledge me. So I have to make sure that she respects me. And if I want her to respect me, I have to respect her, of course. But if I'm walking, because this is work now, right? I'm walking now, and she's moping around because I don't throw her a stick. That's fucking annoying. It's like your children. I mean, you're working today. Maybe your wife is busy, or your wife doesn't know what she has to do as a mother. Yeah, and so your children come around and they want to play all the time. You know, the way you need to see it is, I've done my playing. I don't do that anymore. You know, I don't have to play with a child in the sandpit. The child has to play on its own, because I have to do other things. And I was moping around as a child quite a lot, at least in later years, where I would say, you know, I feel terrible because my parents never played with me. Why should they? You know, when you get older, you play different games. That's how it is, isn't it? So, if a child is moping around, because, but you know, it's how the child feels. Inner child. So you have to look at that. That also has to do with consciousness. Because if you are stuck on, I never had a happy childhood, that's how I felt. When I was looking back into the past, the way I felt as a child, I felt like, you know, I was my whole life depressed. My entire childhood was like a dark speck, like a black void. So what did I do? I looked at my childhood. I started observing myself, but also my parents, because they were, you know, they're one of the reasons I felt the way I felt about life in general. So you could say, you know, I have been granted to live with my parents for the past 3 or 4 years again. But I also accepted it like this, right? It's a state of acceptance, of knowing your place. Right? To understand I have to be here now. It's a feeling. Tried running away sometimes, realized it doesn't work. I have to work this out now. Which meant, you know, I didn't have any money, I didn't work for anybody else, so I stayed. And they didn't throw me out. Okay, you know, I tried. You know, I certainly tried. Tested out boundaries, set up boundaries to make sure that my space is safe. Because while I was living with them, you know, I saw all kinds of behaviors that pissed me off and that I need to let go of so that they would leave me alone. It's like my parents are really anxious about everything because they're conscious of fear. But when you tell them they're afraid, they deny it. They say, I'm not afraid. You know, that's like 90% of everybody I know. If you tell somebody they're afraid, they say, I'm not afraid. Yeah, sure. I mean, why do you behave afraid then? You know, and that's also when I started to stop listening so much to what people are saying, but to observe them. And where I learned to observe was in Africa. I learned to observe in Africa because I studied vervet monkeys for about 2 years roughly, and I would go out with binoculars and study their behavior. I didn't even know what this was going to teach me, but it did teach me to observe. I didn't know that that's what I was gonna get out of it, because science itself to me is just bullshit. Why? Because science, you know what they do? They always look at other people, right? They don't want to be the subject of their science. No, it's always some particle or some animals. But they never spend time observing themselves. And that's the only thing that's worth observing, because it's the thing that you can gather most information about. So you start observing yourself. And the more you do that, the more conscious you become of who you are and how you feel like and why you feel like it. And that means your emotions change. Like, I used to be quite afraid and angry and all kinds of stuff, right? And these emotions, they would numb me. I've said that already, but I have to say it again. These emotions would numb me. They would basically, you know, they were so overwhelming. But not just because they are overwhelming, well, they are, you know, overwhelming. You know, it's like yoga. It's like a giant mass of potential energy, you know, that comes from your past. You know, all the childhood stuff. All this holding on to the way you felt when you were a child. Because it's heavy. It's heavy stuff. Because it's like root chakra, you know, that's where all the fear and all the anger lies. So when you start to work with your past trauma, what does that mean? Fuck off. Okay, I had to pause because I had to pee, and you know, I don't have to film that. So what's going on, right? I mean, to me, you have to understand this. I'm trying to break down to you. You know, I would probably need 2 to 3 hours if I would hold a session and talk to people about this kind of stuff. That's one reason why I'm recording myself in such a way, because it helps me to wrap my mind about what I can actually say to explain that to anyone. So, consciousness. Imagine yourself as an ocean. Yeah, and the more negativity, you know, you throw into that ocean, let's see negativity as something else. Just stuff. You throw stuff into the ocean, and if you do that for a lifetime, right, the ocean will be full with stuff, you know, which means nothing can flow there anymore. It's like restricted energy flow. And so if you see yourself as the ocean, what does that mean? You're piling up memories. You're piling up emotions. Emotion, yeah? You're piling up all kinds of things. What else? You know, things, you know, thoughts, habits, opinions, you know, thinking you know what's going on. Nobody knows really what's going on. And if you really want to tell someone that you know what's going on, then you're really afraid that you don't know what's going on, which means you don't know what's going on, because you're living in a world of fear. And you're clinging to that idea, I know what's going on. And what does that mean? Well, that means you're desperate, you know, and that's exactly what holding on means, right? You have made experiences as a child that you may consider to be traumatic, right? And now you're holding on. You're holding on to these experiences. And that means you're trapped in a place in the past, like many places. I mean, I've visited these things in ayahuasca ceremonies. I was walking around, you know, you get to these dreamlike states, because ayahuasca, of course, is DMT, and DMT is produced in the body, and you know, when it gets into the pineal gland, you know, it activates your third eye. So meditation, breath work, I believe also going outside, certain foods, they help to keep enough DMT in your body, and you know, that's what creates dreams when you sleep, and visions, right? I mean, dreams aren't just, you know, weird stuff. If you start paying attention to what dreams are, yeah, right, you can get a lot of insight about yourself. Sometimes I would have a dream about something, you know, that really scared me. Often when I was using rapé, my dreams became quite vivid. But also I started to become more conscious in my dreams. And now you understand, please, that wasn't something I chose in that sense. You know, I didn't say, I want to be conscious. It just happened that way. And while you live with people that try to pretend that we aren't killing the planet and that are only conscious of about like material stuff, I started to become conscious about, you know, everything that's underneath the surface. And that's emotions, that's feelings, that's like all kinds of entities. When you start seeing the world more like a dream, and then you understand what the Aborigines are talking about. And you know what Maya means. It's the dream, it's the kind of illusion. But not just. I mean, I don't see life as, you know, nothing's real, it's all an illusion. Because to me it feels very real, and therefore I say it is real. No, that's just how I see it. That's how I see it, but also because I choose to see it that way. Because to me, I don't really see a point to think of life as something that doesn't matter. Because if that would be the case to me, how would I live my life? I would just not give a shit. I would not give a shit because it doesn't matter. That's how most people live their life, and that's empty. Because you will never do anything that you feel like, because to you, you know, yeah. Symptoms of consciousness. Yeah, I mean, I think it's easier if I could have people that could literally ask me questions. Because, you know, if they ask me, because they're standing probably somewhere, I don't know where in life, and they would ask me questions about things that they don't understand, you know, that could work for me. Because now I'm just talking about everything. It's kind of bleh. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that I know, that I have picked up over the years. You know, I can talk about these things for hours. So it's quite complicated to get it all into a concise kind of lecture thing. And to me it's also, right, if I'm talking alone, that's why for me the camera is something to hold on to. Because I can see this as another person, you know. I can talk to somebody, I can record it, and then I can put it online. You know, that to me is something meaningful. Whatever meaning means, But that's to me is something meaningful. It gives me something to do, because otherwise I'm just living my life not knowing what to do. But I figured it out. So I ask myself questions: what do I want? What do I want? Not what do my parents want? Because my parents wanted that I would become, not my mother so much, but my father. He wanted me to become an engineer, because I studied environmental protection as an engineer, right? An environmental protection engineer, or an engineer in environmental protection. And for years he was trying to get me to work as that. I tried for a while. I pretended in a way, but deep down I always knew I don't want it. But I thought I was afraid, and probably everybody else thought, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's afraid of taking responsibility. But that wasn't so much it. What was true was that it wasn't what I wanted to do. It didn't spark me as something, that could motivate me. Because it just felt so wrong. Because when you look at what environmental protectionist engineers do, they just go around, they measure toxins, and what do they do? All kinds of things. Right, they work for the government or something and advertise or implement electric cars. It's like, why the fuck would I ever do that? It's so dishonest. Because if you see how I see the world, you could never do that. My father doesn't care. All he cares about is earning money. But I'm different. Because in that sense, I have a consciousness. And that consciousness says, I like nature. When my father walks through a forest, he sees firewood. That's what he sees. When he sees trees standing around, he doesn't see these trees as conscious beings. He sees them as trees that he could have chopped up in kind of equal pieces, standing in his, on his property, so that he can burn them when he feels cold. It doesn't occur to him that instead he could get used to the cold, go outside when it's cold, face cold temperatures. To him it doesn't occur. So my consciousness is like expanding all the time. So I also wanted to expand. But if you're afraid, what you discover, you will do all the things that keep your consciousness small. Because if you expand your consciousness, it means, if you awaken to certain things. What does that mean? You suddenly like, and then, whoa. How did I get here? Right, that's how I feel. How did I get here? What the fuck? Okay, this is my life. And you realize you feel absolutely terrible. You're in pain. Your whole body is fucked. And then you start realizing, oh shit, like there are certain foods that make me more conscious. And there are certain foods that make me more unconscious. And then, but it's all confusing because you're like, you don't know who you are. You just woke up. That's how it happened to me. It's like, bam! Suddenly, something happened in my life, something you could say was random. And suddenly I was awake. I realized there was something to do, but I didn't know what. So I started looking for what to do. What do I want to do? You know, not what other people want. And so I once said to my dad, I will never work as an engineer. So I also stopped applying. Because if I would have said I will never work as an engineer, but I would have kept applying, then, you know, it's like controversial. That's how most people are. They say I'm not afraid, but they are. And you can see it, how they react. That's just how it is. But they say they're not afraid. But when you see them living, you know they are afraid. Of all kinds of things. Of being cold, right? Most people don't walk barefoot because they're afraid. And they're pussies. Because they're in pain. But if you are in pain, you have to work that pain out of you. You know, because what's the pain? It's the holding on to all that kind of suffering stuff. You know, it's like having been spanked once. And there's this little child, you know, that was crying. You know, it's like the dog. Then I say, fuck off. And now she's running around. Yeah, she thinks probably I want to throw this thing. But, right? And now she's running around on her own. Because I made her do it. I was like, bam! You know, I woke her up. Sometimes you have to be scared into waking up. Sometimes you have to be scared out of your senses so that you will wake up. Right? And sometimes you have to really struggle up a hill. But this poncho is so shit for doing this. I mean, it's nice if it's rain, but it doesn't. Okay. You see, I'm still learning. Complicated stuff. You don't know what's going on. You just awoke to some kind of truth. And now you're wondering what's going on, yeah? So you have to gather information. You have to observe. Because what I realized is people won't tell you anything. It's like people won't tell you anything. At least not the people you know. Because maybe you don't know them as well. I mean, spending 4 years with the people I grew up with helped liberate me from all kinds of stuff. I mean, if you get really easily angry at your parents or at thinking about your childhood, you know, that's what you have to work with. Instead of just accepting it, yeah. Instead of just accepting, well, that's just how I am. Hey, zit, 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 bleib. So instead of just accepting I'm angry, you know, you should ask, why am I angry? Zit. Why am I angry? So you can become conscious of the reason of your anger. So you realize, oh, that's why I was angry all this time. Because I was not paying attention to my needs. But what are your needs? What do you need? How much exercise does your body need? You know, I'm at this point now, you know, where I also allowed myself to say, okay, I'm gonna walk this dog. I could have said I won't do it, but I said, you know, I'm gonna do it. So it also means every day at 4, I have to leave the house. If you don't have a dog, consider yourself to be the dog. Today I was like, I actually don't want to record this. But when I make the decision that I'm going to record this session because I think, oh, I've done enough, yeah, apparently I haven't, because I'm still alive, right? I'm still, in that sense, me, whoever I turned out to be. So, what's it that I'm doing? I'm walking because I feel, for the first time in my life, I really feel this intense longing to go outside. That's what I become conscious of, and it drives me mad. If I don't go outside, I start feeling like I'm going insane. But now imagine, apart from this feeling of I want to go outside, you also have feelings like I want to watch movies, I want to have sex, I want to watch porn, I want to eat, I want to do this, I want to do that, blah blah blah. And then of course all the things that you never did, and maybe even women you didn't sleep with, or things you didn't eat, or holidays you missed out on, or chances you didn't see, all kinds of things. So you have to sort these things out. What do I actually want to eat? What do I want to eat? Not what I was taught to eat, but what do I want to eat? What do I need to eat? It's like I started eating cheese again. Because I said, actually I denied myself this, because I thought I have to be vegan now. I wasn't really vegan, but I was trying to be. But I'm more like a vegetarian. That's what I feel like I need. And eating cheese is like, whoa. It's like, yeah, man. I mean, if you haven't eaten cheese for almost a year or something, then suddenly eating cheese again is certainly a very worthwhile experience. If you can distance yourself from this, I'm disgusted by the way this cheese is produced. I'm somewhat blending that out. So I know, I'm not really fond of the way this cheese is produced. But I also realize that, it's like, okay, it's there anyway. If I eat it or not, it's not going to make a lot of difference. Of course it makes a difference to me. But then if my feeling to eat cheese is really strong, I'm just going to eat it. And certainly it has helped me, because it has motivated me. I allowed myself to eat cheese. Now you can ask, of course, why don't you eat meat? Because when I imagine myself eating meat, it disgusts me. I see this dead body, and I know how it is to kill a chicken, so I'm conscious of what it means to take a life. Most people, they just eat meat. They don't know how it is to kill an animal, so they cannot make a conscious decision about eating meat, because they don't really know what it means to do, right? To kill an animal and then eat it. And that's something, that's just a feeling. That's why I say I feel like I don't want to eat meat, because I know what I'm talking about. I don't feel like killing animals. That's just how it is. And so, yeah, okay, sometimes I say then I eat cheese, I also eat eggs, but I don't want to eat meat. This feeling I have, and because I'm conscious of my feelings, that's the only thing that's real to me. It's how I feel in any given moment. So awakening to what? Truth. What's truth? How do you feel? Right? Now I'm gonna go back, because my feeling says go back. And that's, of course, when I'm talking about, a lot of people are stopping the process of awakening, including me. It's also important to slow down, because I mean, if you do it too fast, you're just gonna die. That's just how it is, because it's too much. Your body needs to get used to the energy flowing in this system, and you have to learn how to hold the energy. It's a tough process, like a really, really tough process. So you have to become conscious about the way energy flows, and then you become conscious of all kinds of things. And the symptoms of awakening are feelings of madness, insomnia, because what does it mean when you cannot sleep? There's something keeping you awake. And if I cannot sleep, I ask myself, what do I need to do? Sometimes when I lay awake at night, I eat something. I ask myself, what do I want to do? And then I realize, because when I lay awake at night and I cannot sleep, often eating something helps me. But then usually there's also something else I need to do, right? If I lay awake at night, I'm trying to tell myself, something I'm not listening to. So I'm awake because there's actually energy available, but I'm not using it. Instead, I'm lying awake at night in bed, thinking I have insomnia, or thinking, I should sleep now, I don't want to be awake. So that's like holding on to the way you think things should be or ought to be, because of the way you've been told that things generally are, and because you want to be like everybody else, because that's where you feel safe. Yeah, you do all kinds of shit. Then you go to the doctor and you say, I cannot sleep, and then he says, oh, I will prescribe you something. But that doesn't help you, because instead of sleeping, you could do something else. Do crochet, I don't know. Figure out, ask yourself, why can't I sleep? What's keeping me awake? And why am I not using this energy that I have at the moment? Yeah, maybe because tomorrow I have to wake up early and work. But, maybe you have enough energy, right? Like, I realized I have much more energy than I think. I sleep, actually sometimes I sleep too much, just because I think I need a lot of sleep. But I've realized sometimes, I don't actually need that much sleep. That sometimes, I only took LSD 3 times. And during all these times, I took it, it's like Felix Felicis from Harry Potter. It's basically LSD. To me, because I know how to deal with all these emotions. And when I took LSD, I already had about 2 years experience with smoking cannabis and learning how to hold balancing myself. So that if you smoke cannabis, you don't go into depression, you don't go into happiness. So one thing that helped me to stay conscious over long periods of time is cannabis. But also, if you work with cannabis, there also have to be times where you don't work with it. So I don't take psychedelics just for fun. To me, it's okay. I'm taking this because, there's something I need to do now. And then I do it. Sometimes somebody would, I would be around people that would have psychedelics, and sometimes I knew I would take nothing. And sometimes I would take it, but then generally I did my own thing. I didn't really cling to other people. I did my own thing. So, I'm already different to begin with. To me, how most people smoke cannabis and they just sit around at home doing I don't know what. I started to work out fairly early. Go slackline, do these kinds of things. Because cannabis helped me to connect with myself. So when I smoke cannabis now, I don't like smoking with people. So when I smoke, I would be alone in my room. I would lock the door, put on a candle, and then I would smoke, and then I would feel what I feel. And then I would use any method that occurs to me to deal with what I'm feeling at the moment. So right now I'm going for a walk because that helps me to deal with my emotions. That's one method, to use the energy to move forward instead of holding on, staying inside in that ridiculous comfort zone all day. I use the energy that I have available to do something because I've worked enough with my trauma that I rose above this. You know, I'm no longer trapped in these, you know, my childhood was shit and stuff, and people neglected me all my life. Because nobody ever really paid attention to me. They only paid attention to me when I was sick, right? Or when I was throwing a tantrum. So, you know, most of my life I was just quiet. Because nobody wanted to listen to me. And that pissed me off, right? And that made me really angry. So I was full with anger. So I worked that anger out of myself, so that I wouldn't hold on to it anymore. So now anger comes, I feel it come, and I let it out, right? I use it. It's because anger is raw energy. And that's me when you become conscious, energy is flowing more. It's like your kundalini is starting to awaken, right? It's like rising up your spine. And then your chakras, you know, whether you want this or not, you cannot really change that. You can try to stop this process, and believe me, I've tried. But if you really want to manipulate yourself because you're afraid of what's happening to you, then you're gonna stay depressed for the rest of your life. And you will never reach your full potential, and you will probably eventually do like Chester Bennings and kill yourself. You know, that's like how it's gonna be. So to me, the way it worked was, you know, I spent whole nights feeling like I'm going mad. Once I came, you know, often these states were induced by psychedelic experiences, but I also, you know, got into these states without psychedelics. You know, that's how I live now. I feel like I've just taken LSD, but I didn't, right? You know, I didn't sleep much. I didn't eat anything, like I drank a cacao. I haven't taken anything psychedelic in the previous weeks. All I did was go outside. You know, I drink black tea with spices and herbs, but I'm all there. It's like I've taken LSD just now. So what LSD does is it opens your mind. I say that because if you're narrow-minded, you're only seeing a certain fraction of what is actually going on. So to be narrow-minded, you know, it's like life is shit, whatever. You know, that's how you see life in general. Life is shit. That's narrow-minded. You know, if you think electric cars help the environment, that's narrow-minded because you're not seeing the full picture, right? I mean, what people did to me when I said, you know, I have heartburn, and they stuck all kinds of tubes in my body, that's narrow-minded. Because they think they know what's going on. They don't. Because in the end, I had to help myself. I had to work out the stuff that gave me heartburn, which was anger. And because I was angry, I had all kinds of ridiculous eating patterns. But, you know, I also tried to eat healthy or right. But nobody could tell me what that means. Because all the people that I lived with had a terrible diet. And they still have. And I can see it, right? I see them, they have no energy. They're really pale. Their entire... Right? It's like... They already look like zombies. Like, some people look already dead because they don't want to work on themselves. They don't want to go outside and hike. They just want to sit at home and work, earn money or something. Then I say, okay, you know, you're in the process of dying. I mean, we all are. I mean, that's just how it's gonna be, right? But it doesn't have to be like this. I mean, you can keep saying, I want to live an active lifestyle, and I'm gonna fight for that, right? It's not like fighting against things so much. It's more like fighting for something. It's like saying, I want to be alive. You know, that's how it was with me, that I said, I want to be alive. I want to live. I actually said that once when I was drifting off into nothingness because I had like, somebody just threw me out. I had no desire to live anymore. And then I took mushrooms, and that can bring you to a very bad place. You know, and I was like fading away, literally fading away into this feeling of I want to die. But at some point, you know, I made a choice and I said, what the fuck, I want to live. But that meant I had to feel. I had to feel all kinds of things. So if you awaken to the truth, how life can actually be, you see, it's so complicated to explain to you all these things that you were unaware of. So if you want to understand what makes me do what I'm doing, right, you have to figure it out for yourself. And that means you have to start living your life, right? And you have to stop making sense, because it doesn't make sense. What I do makes no sense. I mean, I know why I'm doing this, and I try to stop. I cannot. Every time I sit at home and I want to stop, I get angry. I get bored. Because all the things that I used to do, you know, they just don't fulfill me anymore. It's like King Haggard from The Last Unicorn. Nothing makes me happy anymore. Great movie. Oh, by the way, there's a really good movie. It's called Children of the Sea. It's a bit like anime. Yeah, I can really recommend that to you. Just watch it. Give it a shot. Children of the Sea. Really good stuff. Tikkoking Crete. Shh. Why does she always have to run? Doesn't matter. So, okay. So, symptoms, you know, I covered some of them. If you're interested in this, look it up. Or get me to talk in front of your, I don't know, get me some kind of audience. You know, maybe you could say I already have that, but I just feel like, you know, I need to move on. I'm quite restless. You know, I'm quite restless in general. It's like, I mean, I don't know if you know, it's not like I'm recommending to anyone to take LSD. I would never do that, because it can literally destroy you, right? It's not what anybody has to do. I did it, and it worked for me. But I know just as much, like a lot of people who are stuck on taking LSD because they don't know how to use psychedelics. So psychedelics in general are the tools of a shaman. Now you have to ask yourself if you are really shaman material, because if you would have grown up in some kind of tribe, I mean, you would have found your place in there. I don't know, you would be a kind of warrior type, you would be more like a shaman kind of type, or maybe you would be, what else? Like chief kind of type. Maybe you would be, you know, I'm talking more to men right now, right? Maybe you would be, I don't know, the weirdo nobody likes, you know. I don't really know what kind of type you would be. I know what I am because of the choices that I made, and because of observing myself, how I react to psychedelics. To me, doing psychedelics is like getting home. But also the psychedelics that I choose and that I like. You know, what I really like is rapé. That's like warrior type. It's quite heavy stuff. But to me that's like, I don't know, eating I don't know, chickpeas or something. You know, if I have rapé, I go through this in a couple of weeks, and then I work out all the stuff, you know, that I want to work with, you know, all the emotions that I needed to look at, and then I don't do it for a couple of weeks. You know, this kind of mentality came natural to me. Just listen, I have met a lot of people that take psychedelics, but they don't know what to do with it until they get afraid of them. You know, I'm always waiting for an opportunity to do psychedelics because I know what to do with them. But most people, they get lazy and then they don't want to do anything anymore. But that's exactly the thing. I mean, when I did psychedelics, I always engaged actively with them. I lay down to work stuff out of myself. But I also, you know, I never got to the point where I completely stopped with them. There were people that tried to get me to stop, that tried to give me the feeling that psychedelics are bad. Well, what is true is that they're not the overall solution. In that sense, you can say you are the solution, which means you have to become active. You have to lead an active lifestyle. You have to make sure that you take responsibility of the way you feel and of the kind of life that you lead. And let's say, you know, let's take my example. I had no money, no girlfriend, no wife, nothing in that sense, yeah? I had myself. And I saw opportunities in my life that other people wouldn't see because they would be afraid of what other people think of them. You know, I've been walking barefoot in all kinds of places the past couple of 10 years, and to me, you know, I was the only one doing it. People gave me all kinds of shit to it, but I didn't really care about what they said. You know, I did sometimes, but I also worked on that. You know, it's a challenge, and I wanted the challenge. You know, there's not many people that want this kind of challenge. So you know, I like to put in the work. If I know what I'm working for, I'm working to become, you know, to be conscious. I'm quite conscious. Sometimes I'm not so much, right? It's like, but I always know how to get back to that place. And it's a feeling. Fuß. Hier. Here. Here. Sit. Sit. You know, sometimes I tell her to come because now there's gonna be cars, and so she needs to be on the leash. Because I don't want to, I don't want to. Come. And then she's dawdling. She's like walking extra slowly towards me because she doesn't want to be on a leash. And that sums it up for myself a little. I didn't want to be on a leash. And everybody's on a leash, Everybody lives their life like Fuß. Like, because they're dependent. She is now on the leash. That means she's depending on me. How fast to go, where to go. If she can sniff or not. I don't want to be on a leash. But I can also make conscious decisions. I see people, that you may consider family or whatever. They are on a leash. I'm, whatever age means. But there's this day that you can call your birthday. And I've decided now, the last years, I'm doing nothing. I spent Christmas alone in my room. Because I realized I don't want to spend time with anyone else. Like, there's people that I want to spend time with, but, I don't know who they are yet. And at the moment, it's not really something that I need to find out, because I have other things to do. So now I'm trying to think about, for instance, what am I going to do about my birthday? And so in order to make a decision about this, I asked myself, what do I want to do? And then I imagine, okay, do I want to invite people? Do I want to celebrate? Fuß. Here. Do I want to celebrate? Fuß. Like, I don't like it. If she's on the leash, then she has to walk like she's on the leash. That means she has to pay attention to where I'm walking. If she's on the leash and she's walking like she's not on the leash, that means she's going to pull in all kinds of directions. And then she's going to sniff everywhere, but that's not leash mode. Leash mode is you walk where I walk. And if you don't, I'm going to scare you a little. Fuß. That sounds a bit rough to you, but that's what I'm doing with myself, basically. In a way, I have my own leash, which means I don't run around chasing women to fuck them. I keep myself on a leash because I say, you will stay Fuß here. Sometimes you can say I'm quite hard to myself. And if then people want to live apart from me because they cannot deal with that, well, that's their problem. Because if that scares them, then it's better if they stay away forever. Because that's not gonna change. I'm quite serious in terms of living, in terms of my goals. And that's, to me, has absolute priority. Spiritual development, whatever that means, I'm trying to live my life. Fuß. Fuß. Yes, today I'm a bit of an asshole. I think it's not true. I think, let's say I would have a wife, yeah? I would spend my life together with a woman. She would soon realize that she cannot do whatever she wants. Because there are certain things that I need to do and that have absolute priority. And that to me means that whatever woman, you know, would try to be with me would have to be okay with that. Because there are things in my life that are different from most people. Right? Most people, they don't really have to worry about anything but just getting to the next day. In that sense, I feel like, you know, I have a purpose and I'm conscious of that purpose and I'm going to get it done because I also know I can, right? That's like potential. I know I have the potential to do that, and so I'm also aiming to do it, you know, to live the best life that I can live. Not that my father could have lived, so I'm not trying to be my father. Because in that sense, you know, I have more potential. But also, you know, I couldn't live the life that he lives, or that maybe, you know, my brother lives, or, you know, people who I spent my youth with live, because I would hate it. If I would have to live that kind of life, I would kill myself. And that's why I choose to walk my own path. And that's full on. And that means I am the way I am. And I'm in that sense serious. I don't really joke around. You know, so if there's people that joke around, I say, piss off. And that's why, you know, when she's trotting around behind me, doing shit like this, you know, I do boom, leave me alone. And then she leaves. If she doesn't like that, it's her problem, you see? And that's what I often had with women. They came across me and they thought, oh, look, a man with long hair and a beard, and he walks barefoot, you know? Oh, I can be with him. But all they wanted was for me to fuck them, you know, to stuff them with energy, you know? But that's not who I am. I mean, if you think that, you're gonna have a really hard time. Because there are certain things that I demand from people that want to spend time with me. You know, and that's like taking things serious. And that means everything. You know, it's like spirituality, but as a form of, you know, like sadhana. It's like methods that help you to enlighten instead of, you know, what everybody else is doing, to live in some kind of ecstatic slumber. You know, it's like going from I'm afraid to oh, I'm not afraid of anything. It's like ridiculous how people live their life, and that makes me angry. And if something makes me angry, it's a sign that it's not for me. You know, so I'm working with these kinds of things. And that's why I also, you know, what's it do to a dog? You know, I don't kick her. I don't physically abuse her. But if she pisses me off, you know, I'm gonna put her into place. It's not your place to pull on the leash. So I'm gonna show you that, you know? Some people will say then, oh, you're an asshole. Well, I see it a bit different. Because she's not a wolf. She's a little dog. And all she wants is to play. Yeah, she can do that all day. But what am I doing? You know, am I just your puppet that has to walk you and feel happy if you feel happy? No. She has to know that if I say this is gonna happen now, she has to do it. You know, and that's the place that I want to have in a marriage. Not because I'm an asshole, because I know what I want and what I need to do, because I figured this stuff out. I wanted to know what it means to be a real man, and not these bad jokes that are running the show. I mean, they're not running the show, but, you know, they want to. You know, it's like unconscious people using money and power and oppression to put a crown on top of their heads. You know, if you are being given a crown, like Jesus for instance, you know, it's gonna come with a price. And that means it's like the sword of Damocles. You don't live your life like the fool or like the farmer. You live the life a bit different. You know, you sit on a kind of a throne, because that's what, you know, higher consciousness then in the end is about, that you have to watch over, you know, the creation. You don't claim the creation for yourself, but it's like the guru, right? He sits on a kind of a throne to make sure that everybody's kind of safe. You know, so if people act a bit stupid or selfish, you have to show them, like, put some sense into them. A sense of, you know, what's my place and what should I be doing, instead of being selfish and lazy and moping. So yeah, a dog that's sitting around moping, like, what do you want? It's like, play with me, play with me. I don't have fucking time for that. Play with yourself. If you don't know how to do that, figure it out. I mean, you are not a dog. I mean, you have things that you could do all day. Like, you could figure out how to crochet. You could figure out how to cook. You could figure out all kinds of things, you know, that don't just help you, but in the long run also, you know, what can you give? What can you contribute to this kind of place? What is missing? You know, I'm doing what I can to raise awareness, to talk to people that you can lead a conscious life, and that you can create all kinds of content, that you can rise above your fears and all kinds of stuff. You know, that's what my mission is. You know, so you figure out what your mission is, what fulfills you. This is the kind of life that fulfills me. And that's what you talk about, you know, enlightenment. Well, you are being enlightened. You know, you're filling up with light, awareness, consciousness, right? It's like, what is consciousness? You could say it's shining light on things. That's what the shaman does, you know, shining light on something, and then looking at what it truly is. You know, that's just how it is, you know. Unless, you know, it's like looking at what's truly going on in myself. What am I truly? Who am I? What am I feeling? And to figure that out, you know, it's like taking a suit that you've been wearing. So it's like a snake shedding its skin. You know, I'm trying to find like metaphors that work. It's like it's a snake. Hop. A snake shedding its skin, yeah? Hop. Close. Aus. Hop. You see, I don't want that she walks behind me. That's basically it. I want that she goes in front and sniffs stuff right now. Because if she's behind me, it's just annoying me. You know, she's supposed to do what a dog does, so walk around, run around, do your thing. If she walks behind me, she's walking in anticipation of me throwing a stick. No, that's not what I want. I'm busy recording this now. And I also have to push her a little. It's like, move, move. No, I don't go up there. Hop, 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 hop. You know, I have to keep her going. Los, hop. So, that's basically how it is. You know, then I just say, okay, just walk where you want. Anyway, so what else? Consciousness. You know, sometimes things are getting a little dark, but you can learn to see in the darkness. And that means you can get into states where you still feel depressed, but you don't become your depression anymore. Because you're lighting your own candle. And that means you're living your life not in that kind of darkness, because you always have your own light with you. It's like you're carrying your light. And that's okay. Because most people, they wait for others to have light. It's like old people, right? It's like they always want young children to be around, and they want to touch them and stuff, because a child is still pure in that sense. A child still has a lot of light. You know, it's like natural for a child. And then all these people come and they take advantage of the child and they touch it, and that smears some kind of emotional dirt on them. Because, you know, when I was a child, people would often come and ask me, or mostly my parents, if they could touch me on the head, because I had short hair and they wanted to touch that. Because they said, you know, it feels good. You know, that is so disrespectful. Because why did they do it? They used me to make themselves feel good. It's disgusting. And I would never allow that ever again. So I don't really hug people anymore. I think hugging is for you know, like a woman that I would live with, or my children. I don't have to hug anyone else ever again. I don't even have to shake hands. I mean, there's a reason why they do this kind of namaste greeting in India, right? Okay. There's a reason why they do it there. And I learned to adapt to walking in the dark. You know, I went often without a torch, hiking in the darkness, and I realized my eyes started to get used to it. And I often I realized if I do this with other people, they absolutely see nothing. You know, they always have to have light with them. And that's also one reason why I stopped spending time with people, because they pissed me off. And yeah, sure, I mean, I often ask people, oh, do you want to come on a hike with me? But when they were there, you know, we would, you know, have a good time or something. But then they would do things that I thought were so stupid. You know, I had this one guy that I would hang around more with. We sometimes went for hikes. But he always had to bring his phone. You know, and normally when I feel like I'm lost, you know, I ask myself, you know, I consult my intuition. Where do I want to go? I don't even bring a phone when I go outside, so that I can ask my intuition, so that I can navigate with my feelings. Sometimes I even did that when I was driving with a car. But that's quite difficult, because it's more fast-paced. You have to make a lot of choices, but it's something you can train. And yeah, so the thing is, eventually I got tired of all these people, because they lived a life that made no sense to me. To walk around and then, you know, I don't care if you're married. Look, it's like people that are married and they have children, right? And the husband wants to go outside, and he has his phone with him. Why? Because he claims, yeah, if my wife calls me, I have to be accessible. No, you don't have to be. But because you are dependent on your wife and you are afraid, you know, that somebody's gonna die, you take your phone with you. That's the real reason, because of fear. If you would trust, you would leave your phone at home so that you can have at least a bit of time where you're outside and free doing what you want. And right, if people try to push you to bring a phone, why? If people never had a phone back in the day. Like even 40, 20 years ago, it was absolutely uncommon that people would walk around with a phone. You know, because these things, they suck your consciousness. You're walking around trying to focus on something. And it doesn't matter if you are focusing on the phone or not, it's there. And it kind of listens in. And so I generally don't like spending time with people that have their phone on them all the time. I've even seen such people having their phone during an ayahuasca ceremony. I mean, that's how dependent you can get on your phone for safety and security. So every time you feel bad, instead of asking yourself, wait, what do I feel at the moment? You pick up your phone and distract yourself. That's an escape. To me, there's no escape from how I feel, because I feel like it. So instead of, you know, clinging to how I feel, I work with that feeling. I transform it by being creative or by going for hikes, which is a form of creativity, and then I let go of this feeling. I feel it, I acknowledge it, okay, cheers. Any feeling that you have is raw potential energy that you can use for something else. If you're depressed, the problem you're having is that you don't know how to use your energy. And so it's piling up, it's piling up, it's piling up, and there is no negative or positive energy, because all energy can be transformed. You know, maybe energy is a bit dirty. Well, you can do something else with it. So, right, it's all a perspective in the end. And it's like, okay, you know, I cannot explain to you how I feel, but if I would see you, I could show you that I know how to make you feel something. You know, I've had situations where I did things I didn't know I would gonna do it. It just happened suddenly. You know, I was in situations where I was working in the cinema and, you know, there were 3 tills open. I was standing on one and nobody came to me, and suddenly I would start shouting. It's like, hey, come here, or something, right? And 10 people or so started running towards me, and they, you know, it's like I just slapped them in the face. But the truth is, I just made them feel something, right? I just made them feel something. I just made them feel something. And that's, for some people, it's so intense. What does that mean then also? If you're awakening, you're moving energies like a madman. So what I had to realize most is the kind of effect I seem to have on other people. You know, it's like they're being pulled into that kind of energy vortex or something that you are creating. Because imagine you're channeling energy, you're walking around and you're emanating energy, and you are holding the energy. It's like a tornado. So if people come into your space,